Story 1. Extremely nervous. Reached climax quickly. Embarrassment increased the anxiety. Had to try again the next day. Story 2. A little scary at the start when I realized where the kissing was leading to, but then very exciting. It was the first time for both of us. It made me regret how much I had missed out on by not doing it sooner, but also felt like it was worth the wait. Afterwards, we cuddled on top of the covers for a while, took a bath together, then did it again first thing the next morning. Story 3. It was amazing and something I will never forget. After the first time I rode it every day that summer. I would ride it even if all my muscles were sore. I did not want to get off it and would be sad when I did. I gripped it tightly and went as fast as I could. It was such a great feeling that I wanted to shout. I will never forget the first time I rode my new bicycle. Story 4. I asked out a friend of mine, who was the little sister of my good friend. We went out to dinner and drove to a lookout point at the top of Haleakala. We talked for a few hours, and because it was late, I offered to let her stay at my house. I would drive her home in the morning. She spent the night. We were intimate twice and again in the morning. I never told her I was a virgin. We dated for a few years and still talk some 30 years later. She was recently on a television show with her husband, and they won a house. Story 5. She just laid there. I asked her if it was in. She said yes. I pumped a few times, then pulled out before releasing it all over her stomach and chest. This was unintentional. Her sister found out and told our parents. It was not a good experience. Story 6. Amazing considering I was 20 years old at the time. I remember the feeling after inserting it for the first time. Confidence shot up. She did not believe me it was my first time. Story 7. Horrible, to be honest. Felt strange with a condom. I was unsure of what I was doing, and no one informed me about the natural smell during sex. I think I lasted less than 5 minutes. Looking back, I always felt sad for her since she was older and more experienced. Story 8. It was a difficult situation involving 3 people, 2 men and a woman. My friend brought me there because that was what she wanted. That was my first experience like that. It was going okay, but they got into an argument, and she kicked both of us out. I walked away thinking, so that's sex. Highly underwhelming. Story 9. With a sex worker. It was average. She performed well, even turned over and took my penis into her mouth. However, you could notice small moments of her not being fully present. I would do it again. Story 10. Faster than I would have liked, I still managed to finish 3 times. Oh, to be 18. She was much older and more experienced than me. Overall a good person. Story 11. Went 3 rounds within an hour and reached climax within 30 seconds each time. Nowadays, it takes a couple of hours before I can climax again from sex with a condom. Good oral sex or unprotected sex can get me there within 5 minutes, though. Orgasms depend a lot on how aroused you are, how comfortable you are, and how much you are enjoying it. That applies to all genders. Your first time is very unpredictable. Story 12. We had a day shift bartender who had a habit of way overserving her customers. Drunk customers tip better, of course. She developed a strategy of perfect timing so that the evening security staff would arrive and remove the now intoxicated customers for her. My first shift started at 7 p.m. Within minutes of standing by the door, that bartender was in my ear telling me, "That guy needs to go." I approached the man standing at the bar, tapped him on the shoulder, and gave him the news. "Yeah, forget you," he said, turning back to the bar. I put my hand on his shoulder and didn't get further than "Hey man," before he spun and swung the beer bottle at me. It has never stopped fascinating me how properly trained movements become automatic and instinctive, manifesting faster than conscious thought. Looking back, I don't even remember seeing the swing, but I was inside, shoving the crown of my head against his jaw, my arms wrapping around his waist, turning to press my hip against his. When I uncoiled into the hip throw, his feet sailed through the air, and he crashed onto the tiles. The beer bottle spun out of his hand and shattered against a chair. "Okay, I don't want any trouble," the man stammered. I kept a grip on him as we walked out the front door, just in case he changed his mind. He didn't have any fight left in him, and he disappeared into the evening in the back of a cab. That was my first, but definitely not last, bar fight. Story 13. I stalled several times but quickly figured out the clutch and accelerator pedal coordination and was driving a manual car smoothly by the end of the lesson. Story 14. It was difficult and required a lot of concentration to finish, but I was eventually able to complete about 1 hour in. She was attractive. I recently discovered I had death grip syndrome due to years of excessive masturbation to pornography, which made me less sensitive to real intimacy both physically and mentally. It's improved now, but I still can't fully relax and enjoy until I naturally climax. I need to focus to climax. I wish I struggled with climaxing too quickly, which many women and men complain about, rather than struggling to last too long. That only extends the experience because I don't want the woman I'm with to feel that something is wrong with her. Story 15. The setting and timing were perfect. Both were young teenagers. Both were experiencing this for the first time. It was in the house of her grandparents, which was a big house. She was staying there with her parents at that time. The house was so big that her bedroom was at the other end, so her parents could not hear us. We were comfortable. All the lights were out. We had fun. It was great, actually. There is no awkward story here. I think I was fortunate. Story 16. Embarrassing. Mary Beth was experienced and I was new, home on leave from the Air Force. As soon as she touched me, I came. She was a little surprised, disappointed at first. I was about 20 and she was maybe 22. She was great. A great inspiration with her mouth. Within 30 minutes, we were passionate in bed. I guess I did okay. We were together for a few weeks before I had to go back to the Air Force. Story 17. I was nervous and in my head. Then nature took over. It felt amazing, but I would be nervous about the build-up to it happening for a little bit longer in future experiences. Have fun and be generous. Story 18. Pretty great. In 2012, I had just finished a date with my first serious girlfriend at the time. On the way back to her house in my 1990 Chevrolet short bed, she asked if we could stop by the park. Being innocent, I didn't put two and two together. I thought we were going to the park to hang out, maybe lay in the bed of the truck and watch the stars in the night sky. So we got to the park and next thing she was making out with me. Things got heated and we got busy. I lasted about 3 minutes and finished. Then we proceeded to go again 10 minutes later. The second time I lasted 10 minutes. Overall, it was great. I just wish I had known I was a rebound for her and that she was still in love with her ex-boyfriend. Story 19. I was with my first love, and it was the first time for both of us. We were alone at her parents' cabin by a lake in the mountains. I don't remember the actual act, but that might explain why she left the room afterward and came back a few minutes later with blood on her hands. She burst into laughter when she saw the look on my face. What happened was she had gone to the fridge and handled the minced meat lying there before coming back to me. I'm still processing that, her actions, not the minced meat. Story 20. Awkward. So awkward that I never saw her again. It has been so long ago that my virginity is starting to grow back. Story 21. I was very nervous. I did not really know what I was doing and it was over way too fast. However, it was also with my girlfriend, my dream girl, and she had done it before. She basically walked me through it and made me feel comfortable. All in all, it was good. It also felt like a dream because I could not believe that I was actually doing it with her. Story 22. Insignificant and extremely forgettable. My first time with the woman I love felt like pure ecstasy. I was on cloud 9. Story 23. Nervous but knew what I wanted. It was very quick, maybe 4 or 5 strokes. The most amazing feeling I had experienced up to that point. I didn't know if I should pull out or leave it in. I ended up with both because control at that point was non-existent. But after that first one, it got better and better. Story 24. In a tool shed on April 20th at a party when I was 16, I remember that it was much tighter than I expected. A friend took a picture of us walking out of the shed right after. He posted it to my social media about 15 years later, and we all had a good laugh about it. Story 25. My first time was okay. Not as good as I expected, but at least I lost it to someone who was kind and had genuine feelings for me. My first time with someone I truly loved was very special, one of the best experiences of my life. I used to wish she was the one I lost it to, but now I am glad, since she betrayed me more than anyone else ever has. Story 26. I was 15, extremely nervous, but it was a three-way. Thankfully, I was with a man who had experience and provided some coaching. It made for a very positive first experience. Story 27. I was so terrified that it took a long time to even become somewhat aroused. I had no idea if I was participating fully or not, thought I was broken, and felt very stupid. It took about 5 to 10 attempts to even begin to understand what was happening. The person I was with for my first time was also cheating on her actual boyfriend while telling me that I was her boyfriend. So there was that as well. Story 28. It was great, better than what most people describe. We had sex for about 45 minutes because we were both too nervous to finish and just enjoyed it. Story 29. It went well because I had a woman with a little experience. She knew it would be quick for me and made me comfortable about it. We tried again the next day and the next. She helped me practice quite a bit. Story 30. I actually did not feel much of anything. My genuine reaction was, "That's it? That's what the big fuss was about." It was in the back of my car, and she was on top riding me, but for whatever reason, I just did not get much enjoyment out of it. The following times were a lot better though. Story 31. I was 15 and she was 18. I was so nervous. I couldn't calm down and felt like there was no tomorrow. She thought it was great. The next day, it lasted only about a minute. Story 32. Very nervous. The woman I was with was tense and gripping tightly. There was a lot of repositioning every 3 strokes because I had no idea what I was doing. Story 33. I cannot remember. I am not sure if I was drugged or just blackout drunk, but needless to say, it was not memorable. Story 34. Lasted okay, but I had no idea what I was doing with my hips. It was awkward but good, a little much but good for her. The second time and onward was great. My first experience was mutual, and we were both in our early 20s. Story 35. Kind of underwhelming. I lost my virginity a few years later than most, so I was extremely nervous and insecure about it. It only lasted about 20 seconds in the missionary position before I ejaculated. The second time, 30 minutes later, was a much better experience. I got to try a variety of positions before ejaculating again. The nervousness was gone, so I enjoyed it a lot more. Story 36. I wasn't used to condoms, obviously being the first time, but I believe my first words were along the lines of, "Is it in you?" She was very impressed with my confidence. Still, at the time, it was the best sex of my life. Story 37. She literally just jumped on me and put it inside. I didn't even see it coming. It only lasted about 10 or 15 minutes. She was a friend and felt really awkward afterward and didn't want to see me anymore. But in the moment, it was the best feeling of my entire life. I have had much better experiences since, but after that, it definitely became something I pursued, whereas before I was rather indifferent. Story 38. We were both inexperienced and uncertain about what was happening. I was very stressed and climaxed almost immediately after getting close to her with the condom on. She was kind and understanding, and we cuddled for a while, hanging out naked until I relaxed enough to try again. I remember clearly when I finally succeeded. She had the most surprised expression I have ever seen. I still did not last very long, but we had sex again the next morning before I had to go to class. Story 39. It was very white, a lot of it, and coming from a brown cow, it wasn't very hot. It was actually kind of cold. I remember the first time I milked a cow. Story 40. I was filled with anxiety, but at the same time, it was a life-changing experience. I finished in about 2 minutes, and she pretended for me. I will never forget her. Story 41. Painful and uncomfortable. I was hospitalized due to previously undiagnosed phimosis. It was likely a factor in her decision to cheat on me about a month later. The only upside to the whole situation is that it started a chain of events leading to a different, far superior relationship that was much better for me. Additionally, I finally saw a urologist and received treatment for the phimosis. Story 42. I was 14. It was her 13th birthday, and I was invited to come over to meet the family. It was a hot summer day, and I had bought flowers for her birthday. I remember they were all impressed. Not long after I introduced myself to the family and friends, we headed upstairs, and she locked the door. We began making out, and before I knew it, we were both fully naked. The rest is a bit of a blurred memory. I guess I just did what I thought a man had to do in such a situation. I had never had sex before, and I only knew these things from watching adult videos with my friends. I must have done something right because she couldn't get enough after that first time. Her mother, who was in her mid-30s at the time, tried to seduce me a few times when her daughter wasn't around. My girlfriend eventually ended up being involved with many boys in school. Story 43. Terrible. No one had told me that the foreskin was meant to roll back. So I pulled it out, rolled it back over my tip, and went in again where the same thing happened again. All in all, it lasted about 2 minutes. Story 44. It was intense. It was on the beach during nighttime. There I was, completely vulnerable with my fishing rod in my hand. No shirt on, but I had shorts on. When she bit, I couldn't believe it was finally happening. I put my entire body into it and used muscles I didn't even know I had at the time. It was over pretty quickly, but in the end, my hands were slimy and smelled of fish. My father was there, proudly watching the entire time. From then on, I did it as often as I could. I have loved fishing ever since. Story 45. It was awful. We were both inexperienced. It hurt her a lot. Then she lay still the entire time, no kissing, while I went at it in probably the most uninspiring way, because we started in the morning and my father woke up upstairs while we did it. I'm sure he never heard anything though. I was probably stressed too. I don't remember feeling anything. We ended up stopping with no orgasms. She left a large blood spot. My father washed the sheets before I got to them. The next 2 times were not great either. I lost my erection the second time and experienced premature ejaculation the third. At least a month later we had it well. Just an awful start. Story 46. I had 2 girlfriends who preferred oral only, so I was fairly experienced with that. With both of them, we actually tried, but they were so nervous we couldn't proceed. The first time was with a college friend I had known for a while, and we unexpectedly hooked up. She was gorgeous and out of my league. We had unprotected sex, and I ejaculated inside, which I worried about for weeks. I had great stamina. I would have loved to have had more of a relationship with her. Story 47. Everything and nothing like I was led to believe it would be. Lots of fun, thrilling, scary, full of anxieties, unsure if I did it right, unsure if I communicated how much I enjoyed it. It was the definition of performance anxiety. Story 48. It was nice and quick but overrated. It made me realize that guys put up a lot just for this. It also made me care less about it. That's why women do not have much influence over me. Story 49. The first experience was not significant. However, during a consultation, a pediatrician, who was quite young at the time, proceeded to stimulate me inappropriately until the end, and I honestly liked that. On the other hand, during my last visit to the urologist, there was a nurse or an assistant present. I felt very uncomfortable discussing my symptoms and progress with him in the room. I know it did not make much sense because they are both medical professionals, but it was particularly uncomfortable. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.